Hey guys, so this is going to be part 3 of our notes on the chemical test for blood. This will be the last section of notes. At the end of this section of notes, you're going to have some videos of people going through the process of doing some of these tests. So hopefully you guys can actually see the test done in action. Alright, let's get moving to the information. So, in terms of how blood evidence is detected at a crime scene, there are multiple ways, but the very first thing that an investigator is going to do at the crime scene is use a light source, specifically an alternative light source. We've talked about these in looking at other types of evidence at crime scenes. We talked about it in terms of fingerprints and things like that. You should be able to use an ALS. We also talked about it in terms of things like anhydride and things that will fluoresce at different wavelengths. But it's the same principle, right? So you're going to use a high intensity light or a UV light, and it's going to help to find traces of blood as well as some other bodily fluids that are not visible under normal lighting situations. It is very useful when looking for things like urine or semen. They definitely do fluoresce in an orange wavelength under an ALS. So that's always the first thing that we do so that we're not looking around at every single piece of the crime scene. We kind of narrow down our focus, especially if it's a very large crime scene. So when we're talking about blood reagent tests, so there are, just like when we did drugs, right, there were presumptive tests and then there were confirmatory tests. So there are several presumptive tests, right, that are going to be used to detect blood at crime scenes, and they're going to base it on properties of hemoglobin in the blood. So if you remember from the beginning of our unit, hemoglobin basically has like an iron component in the blood. So that is what these presumptive tests are testing for. And then, of course, after that, we will send it to a crime lab to determine whether it's a human blood or not using a precipitin test. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. It has to do with antibodies that get generated when you mix certain blood and serum together that will confirm whether it is animal or human blood. So the biggest two examples of these presumptive tests, one that you already know about, that's going to be the Kastle-Meyer test, and that's going to produce a pink color when it reacts with hemoglobin. The second one is going to be a hemostick. Now, a hemostick is made by a particular company, which is why they call it a hemostick, but it's going to be a strip that is coated with this chemical called TMB. So TMB is going to produce a green or a blue-green color when hemoglobin is present. Now, most of us use the original kits, which one of the videos you have is going to show you how to use a TMB kit. The company that created this hemostick with a strip, there have been known to be a few too many false positives. So a lot of forensic science departments, they use the old school TMB kit as opposed to the new school hemostick kit. All right, so one that is the big one is going to be luminol. So luminol is going to be a chemical that is used by crime scene investigators to locate blood. It is still used today, and that's because it is it works really well, and it's very inexpensive. So basically, an investigator is going to spray luminol throughout the area that they're looking for certain clues, and it will react with the iron that is in blood, and it actually causes the blood to fluoresce in a blue color. One of the problems with luminol is that it does react to some metals, paints, cleaning products, some other plant materials. The other problem is that when you spray the chemical or luminol onto blood, if you overspray, then that means you will not be able to use that evidence for future tests because it can potentially destroy other evidence that's going on in your crime scene. So on the right side, you will see a luminol reaction. I'm probably going to try and set up a demo so that I can actually show you guys what it looks like, but we will get there. Okay, so the other big one is going to be fluorescein. So fluorescein is really good because it is capable of detecting latent or dried up old blood. It's very similar to luminol, but it's really ideal for fine stains or smears that are found throughout a crime scene. So after the solution that is sprayed onto the surface or the substance that is suspected to have blood, then you're going to pull out your UV light and some goggles, and then you're going to see if there's anything that is illuminated. And if it is illuminated, it will be a greenish white color, which if you take a look on the right hand side is basically a picture of the reaction that you would see with fluorescein. And then if you look, it has like a UV light next to it, just to show you what the greenish blue light will look like when UV light is put on it. All right, but the bad thing about it is it does react to some of the similar things that luminol may cross-react with, and that's going to be copper and bleach. One thing I do want to point out, luminol is really good in determining if there was blood there and if somebody potentially cleaned up blood with bleach. For some reason, criminals always seem to use bleach to clean up crime scenes, and it's a very suspect thing when you go into a crime scene and you see this huge pool of bleach all over a surface that would normally have bleach on, which will let me know that they probably cleaned up some sort of catastrophic blood stain. Okay, the other one after fluorescein is going to be LMG. This is going to be another catalytic presumptive test for blood, and it uses this peroxidase-like activity of hemoglobin. So basically what happens is hemoglobin can cleave or cut oxygen molecules from hydrogen peroxide, and it basically changes the green to a blue-green. Okay, so that's just another presumptive test that you can use. And then the other one is going to be LCV, or leucocrystal violet. It is a chemical process that's used for blood enhancement. So this would be kind of like your physical developer when we were talking about fingerprints, right? So typically, just like physical developer, it is always the last thing that you want to try and use. But using this test can make blood evidence more visible, so you can actually photograph it and do some analysis. Okay, so the one I wanted to just call your attention to a little bit further is just luminol. So luminol is a chemical that reacts with hemoglobin in the blood to produce a blue luminescence. Luminescence is kind of the quality of, let's just say, fireflies, right? Fireflies glow because of a luminescent chemical in their body. Luminol is the same thing. So luminol is going to be used by investigators when the blood is wiped away and is therefore no longer visible by the naked eye. And the thing that's really great about luminol is the brighter and stronger the glow. That means the more recent or the blood that's at the scene is fresher. Okay, as opposed to maybe old dried up blood at the scene. It will tell you that whatever crime was committed was just recently committed. And the other thing is, the brighter and stronger the glow, then that means the heavier the blood flow. So it can also give you an idea of the amount of blood that is present at a crime scene. Obviously, it's not going to be quantitative, but it's definitely going to be qualitative. Okay, you should be able to find out some information, a lot of information based on what you see at a crime scene. Okay, and then the last thing is I just want to show you a picture of what luminol looks like. So if you take a look on the left-hand side, we have a scene here. It's just a carpeted scene. Under normal lights, the luminol doesn't show up. But the minute that you turn down the light so the room gets darker, you will see this blue glow that is coming from the luminol. And even up here on the wall, you can see that there is some luminol present here. It's some really cool stuff. And hopefully you guys will watch the next videos that will give you some idea about how them work. Please make sure that you know the steps for the different chemical reactions, because you may be asked that on a test. So I have uploaded some videos for you that I'm going to have you guys watch. So the first video that I want you guys to watch is going to be on luminol. The second video is just a recap of the Kastle-Meyer test that you guys should already know about. And then the next videos are going to be on the Hemostick, LCV, how to use an ALS, and then LMG, right? So my thought is that you guys would watch this video, figure out what the steps are, and then hopefully give you a better idea of how these tests are used at crime scenes. Okay, so that is the end of your presentation for blood. Hopefully it was informative. If you do have any questions, you know where to find me. And then after this, we're going to start applying some of these principles and some of the activities you guys have coming up. All right? All right, y'all. That's it. Bye.